Welcome to the Southeast Iowa Union Newsbreak. I'm your host, Nick Steffens. The top story: the Federal Surface Transportation Board issued a draft environmental impact statement August 5th on a proposed merger between railroad companies Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern. If carried out, the merger would create the first ever single-line railroad linking the United States, Mexico, and Canada. The document, prepared by the Office of Environmental Analysis, evaluates the possible outcomes of the proposed merger and associated capital improvement projects and weighs them against the impacts of an STB decision to deny the merger. Regulators drew a distinction between the proposed merger's environmental impacts and its impossible merits, like economic benefits. The board is reviewing the proposed acquisition through two parallel but distinct processes, the packet said. Number one, the transportation-related process that examines the competitive transportation and economic implications of the proposed acquisition on the national rail system, and two, the environmental review process. The packet reviews a long list of affected environmental consequences. Those focus items include rail safety, crossing delays, traffic diversions, noise and vibration, air quality and climate change, hazardous materials, energy, biological, water and cultural resources, and environmental justice. Most, but not all, of those impact areas were classified as minor or non-concerns by the draft document. OEA has concluded that apart from the train noise, which could result in adverse impacts at some locations, the potential adverse impacts of the proposed acquisition would be negligible, minor, and/or temporary. Railroad officials say they're processing the findings of the bulky report, which comes in at 357 pages. CP is reviewing the Surface Transportation Board's draft environmental impact statement. CP Media Relations Manager Andy Cummings said in an email, "We remain committed to continuing our work with communities as we advance through this process." Taken in sum, the agency said the stretch of tracks through southeast Iowa would be the most heavily impacted on most fronts by a merger, as it would see the greatest jump in train traffic over the next 3 years. The largest increase would occur on the CP main line between Sabula, Iowa, and Kansas City, Missouri, which would experience an increase of approximately 14.4 additional trains per day on average, one section of the report said. Increased rail traffic has the potential to result in environmental impacts related to noise and vibration, air quality, freight and passenger rail safety, grade, crossing safety and delay, passenger rail transportation, and hazardous material transportation. That 14.4 train per day average only accounts for trains expected as a result of the merger. The CP segment from Muscatine to Ottumwa, which passes through the cities of Richland, Washington, Ainsworth, Cotter, Columbus Junction, Fredonia, and Letts along the way, is expected to see a 0.5 train per day uptick by 2027, regardless of the merger. Under the no-action alternative, the board would not approve the proposed acquisition, and the potential impacts would not occur, a comparison of alternatives section of the review said. However, the applicants expect that both the CP and KCS networks would experience organic growth in rail traffic under the no-action alternative because of changing market conditions, such as general economic growth. CP and KCS officials have pledged to carry out 25 capital improvement projects along the railroads in an effort to mitigate some of those drawbacks. Locally, the list includes 2.16 miles of new siding east of Washington and siding extension in Letts and Ottumwa that span less than a mile. The STB has authority to impose conditions on the merger that would mitigate environmental impacts, but regulators said that authority was limited. Any mitigation measures the board imposes must relate directly to the transaction before the board, must be reasonable, and must be supported by the record before the board, the draft document said. OEA's consistent practice has been to recommend mitigation only for those impacts that would result directly from a proposed transaction. Further regulations, however, can come from negotiations between the board and companies. While none of those negotiations are finalized, the packet mentions several preliminary mitigation measures. Several of those are voluntary, proposed by the applicants. That list includes things like continue to engage in good faith with potentially affected communities along the combined network and conduct transportation, community awareness, and emergency response program workshops and potentially affected communities that request this training. The OEA, however, has recommended a slew of its own additional measures, including consider lubricating curves, where doing so would both be consistent with safe and efficient operating practices and significantly reduce noise for residential or other noise-sensitive receptors, and design culverts and bridges so as to maintain existing surface water drainage patterns and not cause or exacerbate flooding. The Surface Transportation Board is a nonpartisan agency designed to regulate such mergers on the basis of public interest alone. As such, the environmental review process focuses largely on negative impacts rather than positives. That said, the packet did acknowledge possible upsides of a merger pitched by its proponents. Applicants state that the proposed acquisition would further the need for expanded and more capable and efficient transportation infrastructure, while simultaneously advancing the interest of current and future customers in more reliable and economical rail transportation, the packet said. Applicants also state that the proposed acquisition would generate environmental benefits by reducing trucks transportation on highways, resulting in less congestion, less maintenance, and improved safety on those roads. Chief among those upsides, perhaps, is the merger's effect on road traffic. Applicants said they expected to take 64,000 trucks off the highways across the continent every year, as shippers could exploit railroads for cross-country freight. It's an assessment regulators largely agree with. The proposed acquisition will result in the diversion of trucks from the highway network system, which provides some benefits to the highway system, the review said. Because the proposed acquisition would not result in any adverse impacts to traffic and roadway systems as a result of truck or rail diversions, OEA is not recommending any mitigation related to traffic and roadway systems. The Surface Transportation Board has called on any stakeholders to participate in public comments on the merger, each of which must be reviewed and responded to before approving a merger between the railroad companies. Stakeholders will have opportunities to comment in person or online before September 26th deadline, but only on issues of environmental impacts. OEA's public meeting on draft EIS will cover only the environmental issues raised in the case. The board said in a news release, the board will hold a separate public hearing on September 28th, 29th, and 30th of this year at the agency's headquarters in Washington, D.C. to hear comments on the merits of the proposed merger. Those interested can comment online at this STB website. The proposed merger's docket number is FD 36500. The board will also hold in-person meetings for feedback on the environmental review, the closest of which will be in Davenport, Iowa, September 13th. The board will also host online meetings for verbal comments September 7th, 8th, and 19th. Washington School Board members voted unanimously but hesitantly Wednesday night to deny an open enrollment request from a student that would require special education services. Officials said the schools simply didn't have the capacity for the student. Especially in the building that this student is looking at coming into, were full, or actually beyond full, Superintendent Willie Stone said. We have to be able to serve our students with the needs that our students have. Resident student-wise, I'll be honest, it doesn't feel good. I hate it. Stone said the issue wasn't a lack of physical space, but a lack of staff trained to work with students who have disabilities. We are using teachers that aren't special ed teachers but have a special ed license right now. To roster students, we're short 2 special ed teachers. While the circumstances is an official first for the district, Stone said the school's packed special education program had deterred others from seeking open enrollment in the past. Board member Troy Sukin, who made the motion to deny the request, said he blamed funding shortfalls. I'm not doing this because I want to do this. I'm doing this because we're already 2 special education teachers short. With a lack of incentive from the state, our hands are tied. We're not doing it to ourselves. They're doing it to us by not allowing us to pay these people what they need to be paid. While the board can deny open enrollment request, Stone said the district would have to make something work if more students moved into the district that required special education. We'll have to pay overage to our staff, he said. We may have to pay them for an extra block, but we're not going to do that for students outside of our district. But if we have them move into our district, we have to figure out how to serve them. You may have heard a car collided with the Dodici's shop storefront downtown around 11:30 a.m. Friday. Store managers said nobody was injured from the accident, but the crash heavily damaged the windows and entryway to the coffee shop. We are so thankful nobody was hurt, Dodici's manager Isabella Santaro said. Accidents happen. This is all fixable, and we're working immediately to remedy it so we can start serving our customers again as soon as possible. Organizers from the Heritage Area Agency on Aging have launched a new dining program for seniors in Washington. Volunteers said Encore Express, available the 2nd and 4th Thursday of every month at Emmanuel Lutheran Church, was a new spin on the nonprofit's existing meal programs. This is the first location of Encore Express in our service area, said Tim Getty, the agency's regional nutrition coordinator. It's a hybrid between a meal voucher program and also on-site dining. The meals are available to people age 60 and up as well as their spouses, regardless of where they live. Getty said they were priced on a contribution basis. People are able to donate $6 or $5. Some are able to donate 5 cents. Some are able to donate on certain days. That is just fine. It just depends on what they're able to comfortably afford. Those are top stories. It is now time for obituaries. James Stephen Deng of Houghton passed away August 8th at the age of 98. A mass of Christian burial will be held at 3 p.m. On Friday, August 19th. Schmidt's Funeral Home of West Point is assisting with arrangements. Rosa L. Previtt of Mount Pleasant passed away on August 12th at the age of 81. Murphy Funeral Home of Mount Pleasant is caring for her pending arrangements. Dolores V. Freitag of West Point passed away on August 12th at the age of 104. A mass of Christian burial will be held at 10 a.m. August 20th at St. Mary's Catholic Church in West Point. Schmidt's Funeral Home of West Point is assisting the family with arrangements. Victor Zip Arthur Zaragoza of Richland passed away on August 10th at the age of 76. Funeral services will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. on August 16th at Benner Funeral Home. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll have the weather and sports.
Since 1905, Kelowna Cooperative Technology Company has helped our community stay connected with the latest advancements in clear, dependable telecommunications services. KCTC provides rural Iowans with access to high-speed fiber internet, as well as phone, television, computer repair, and cybersecurity solutions. We're also proud supporters of local organizations and area schools within the community. KCTC, keeping Kelowna connected.
Welcome back to the Southeast Iowa Union Newsbreak. I'm your host, Nick Steffens. It is now time for the weather.
The weather is brought to you by Jacqueline Ariola, LLC.
Come visit Jackie in her new location downtown. She is ready to serve Washington and the surrounding community. It's been a rainy day today. The rain will become more steady as the day goes on. The high for today is 76 and the low is 63. The rain will continue into Tuesday morning, then become cloudy in the afternoon, and by night be less and less cloudy. The high will be 79 and the low will be 56. Wednesday we will finally have some sun. It'll be mostly sunny with a high of 81. Thursday will be very similar with a high of 81, but with a few more clouds. On Friday there's a chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. The thunderstorms will stick around through the night with a high being 76 and the low being 62. That was the weather. It is now time for sports.
Sports, brought to you by Fairway.
It's that time of the year again for the Columbus volleyball team. The 2022-2023 season begins in just under 2 weeks, and this season is going to be as familiar as the last. Coming into the year, the Wildcats bring back their full 2021 squad. Columbus graduated no one from last season, which is good news on the Wildcats' part. One of the big returning from the last season includes senior Sarah Vela. Vela was the Wildcats' assist leader a year ago. She finished with 284 assists in 2021. She'll be Columbus's main setter once again. Leading in the kills column last time around was Victoria Howell. She will return for her senior season. Howell had 176 kills last year. Another kills threat is coming back for the Wildcats as well. Sophomore Lily Coyle followed up with the second most kills in 2021. She finished with 113. Other players that will make an impact this fall include seniors Emma Humphreys, Isabella Lagunas, Miriam Uvakalba, and Faith Barnhart. Junior Noemi Navarra also will be a big part of the Wildcats' game plan. Columbus has the potential to make some noise in the Southeast Iowa Super Conference this season, especially with an experienced roster that knows what it takes. The Wildcats will open the season with a pair of tournaments before opening against Wapello in the first round head-to-head of the year. That first tournament will be on August 22nd, and then the second tournament in Wapello will be August 30th. They'll be September 1st at home against Wapello, then they'll be on the road against Winfield Mount Union, then they'll have another home game against Highland, 2 away games for matches, in Hillcrest Academy, and then the next week in English Valleys. They'll be back home against Lone Tree, and then go back on the road against the Wise and Muscatine. Be home against Waco on October 6th. Go on the road on October 11th against Pekin. Then they'll be home against Washington October 13th, and October 17th will be regionals. That is the news for Washington and the surrounding area. I've been your host, Nick Steffens. This is the Southeast Iowa Union Newsbreak, and I will see you next time.